Aaron stepped carefully through the crowded streets of the slave market. The air was thick with dust and the voices of many people bargaining loudly. The market was a place where captured beings from different planets were sold like objects. Some were strong, some weak, some scared, and some angry. The ground was littered with broken dreams and silent hopes. Aaron had come here with a purpose. He wasn't a rich man looking to buy a servant or a worker. He was searching for something different, something special. But as he moved from one group of captives to another, he saw how the buyers looked at the slaves. Most of the buyers were interested only in those who seemed useful or strong. Those who were strange or weak were ignored, left standing in the shadows. Many of the slaves were treated badly. They were pushed, shouted at, and made to feel worthless. In one corner of the market, Aaron noticed a group of people laughing and talking loudly. Nearby stood a woman unlike any he had seen before. She was alien, with skin that shimmered slightly under the sunlight and eyes that were deep and thoughtful. Her body was tall and slim, but she moved with a quiet strength. Yet, no one was interested in her. The other buyers ignored her, and some even looked at her with dislike or fear. It seemed she was unwanted by everyone. Aaron felt a strange feeling inside. He couldn't explain why, but he wanted to know her story. He watched her closely. She didn't speak to anyone or beg for attention. Instead, she stood quietly, her eyes scanning the crowd but never showing fear. Her face was calm but sad, as if she had been through many hard times. Aaron wondered what had made her so different that no one wanted her. A seller approached Aaron and tried to push him towards other captives. "This one is no good," the seller said, pointing to the alien woman. "No one wants her. She is weak and strange. You should buy someone else." But Aaron shook his head and said, "I want to see her." The seller was surprised, but followed Aaron as he moved closer to the woman. Aaron reached out his hand and gently touched her arm. She flinched, slightly, but did not pull away. He looked into her eyes and saw something powerful hidden beneath the sadness. It was a fire, a strength waiting to be freed. Aaron made his decision quickly. "I will buy her," he told the seller firmly. The seller tried to convince him to change his mind, saying she was not worth the price. But Aaron was sure. He paid what was asked, and the woman was no longer a slave in the market. She was now under Aaron's care. As they left the market, the woman looked at Aaron with surprise. For the first time in a long time, someone had chosen her. She didn't say anything, but Aaron could feel her heart beating fast. He decided to call her Lyra, a name that meant hope in his language. Aaron and Lyra traveled away from the busy market to a quiet place where Aaron lived. The journey was long and sometimes difficult, but Lyra stayed silent, watching everything with curiosity. Aaron wanted to give her time to feel safe. He knew she had been through much pain and did not trust easily. When they arrived at Aaron's home, it was a simple place surrounded by nature. It was peaceful and far from the noise of the market. Aaron showed Lyra around, giving her food and water. She accepted the kindness but remained distant. Days passed, and Aaron tried to learn more about Lyra. He wanted to understand where she came from and why no one wanted her. Lyra slowly began to speak, sharing small pieces of her story. She came from a distant planet where her people were hunted because they were different. She had been captured and sold into slavery after losing her family. Her quiet strength came from surviving so much pain. Aaron listened carefully and promised he would protect her. He didn't want her to be just a slave or a possession. He saw her as a person with dreams and abilities. He believed she could be much more than what the market said. Even though Lyra was still afraid, a small hope started to grow inside her. She felt safe with Aaron for the first time. He treated her with respect and kindness, something she had never experienced before. One morning, Aaron took Lyra to a nearby field. He showed her how to hold a simple wooden stick and explained how it could be used for defense. Lyra watched carefully and then tried to move. At first, she was slow and unsure, but with each attempt, she grew stronger and more confident. Aaron smiled and encouraged her. He believed that Lyra had the power to become a great warrior if she learned to trust herself. As the sun set, Lyra looked at Aaron with a small smile. She was beginning to believe that her life could change. The alien woman no one wanted at the market was now someone who could protect herself and others. The journey was just beginning, but for the first time in a long time, Lyra felt that she belonged somewhere. After a few days in the quiet settlement, Aaron and Lyra's connection slowly grew stronger. Lyra was still quiet and cautious, but she began to trust Aaron more each day. She watched him as he worked and helped around the small community. Aaron never treated her like a slave or a possession. Instead, he treated her like a person who deserved respect and kindness. Aaron knew that Lyra had suffered a lot. She had lost her family, her home, and her freedom. These things had left deep marks on her heart. Sometimes she would stare out at the horizon with a sad look, as if thinking about everything she had lost. Aaron wanted to help her find new strength and hope. One morning, Aaron asked Lyra if she wanted to learn how to protect herself. At first, she hesitated. The idea of fighting and using weapons was new and scary to her, but Aaron explained that knowing how to defend herself would help her feel safer and stronger. Slowly, she agreed to try. They started with simple exercises. Aaron showed her how to stand properly, how to move her body with balance and control. At first, Lyra found it difficult. Her body was still weak from the hard times she had been through, but Aaron was patient. He never pushed her too hard. Instead, he encouraged her gently, telling her that every small step was progress. Lyra practiced every day. She learned how to hold a wooden stick and how to move it to block and strike. At first, her movements were slow and uncertain. Sometimes, she would lose her balance or miss the target, but she never gave up. With each practice, she grew better and stronger. Aaron also taught her how to use her natural strengths. Lyra's alien body was different from humans. She was quicker and more flexible. Aaron showed her how to use these gifts in fighting. Lyra was surprised to see how her body could do things she never thought possible. While training, Aaron shared stories about warriors from different lands. He told her how courage and discipline could turn anyone into a strong fighter. Lyra listened carefully. These stories gave her hope and a new purpose. She wanted to become a warrior, not just to protect herself, but to protect others who could not protect themselves. Slowly, Lyra's face changed. The sadness began to fade, replaced by a quiet determination. She started to smile more and even laugh sometimes. She began to talk about her dreams again, dreams of freedom, strength, and belonging. One day, Aaron noticed Lyra practicing by herself under the tall trees near the settlement. She moved gracefully, striking and blocking with confidence. It was clear she had improved a lot. Aaron felt proud, but he also knew there was much more to learn. To help Lyra become a better warrior, Aaron introduced her to others who could teach her new skills. There was Mira, an experienced hunter who knew how to track animals and move silently through the forest. Mira showed Lyra how to listen to the sounds of nature and how to hide from danger. There was also Jalen, a kind man who had once been a soldier. He taught Lyra how to use different kinds of weapons and how to think quickly during fights. Jalen was strict but fair, and Lyra respected him for his knowledge. Lyra listened carefully to every lesson. She asked many questions and practiced hard. The people around her began to see her in a new light. The alien woman who was once unwanted was now someone who worked hard and learned quickly, but it wasn't always easy. Some people in the settlement still whispered about Lyra. They remembered where she came from and doubted she could ever become a true warrior. Lyra heard these words but did not let them stop her. Instead, she used their doubts as fuel to prove them wrong. One evening, Aaron and Lyra sat by the fire. The sky was filled with stars, and the air was calm. Lyra looked at Aaron and said quietly, "Thank you for giving me a chance, for seeing me when no one else did." Aaron smiled and replied, "You had the strength inside you all along. I only helped you find it." From that day, Lyra's training became even more serious. She worked harder than ever. Every morning she woke up before the sun to practice her moves. She ran through the fields, climbed trees, and trained her body to be fast and strong. Aaron watched her with pride. He knew that Lyra was not just learning to fight, she was changing. She was becoming someone who could stand tall and face any challenge. But Aaron also knew that training a warrior was more than just teaching skills. It was about building confidence, courage, and hope. Lyra's journey was not only about fighting others, but fighting her own fears and doubts. Slowly, Lyra began to believe in herself. She remembered her past, not as a story of pain, but as a story of survival and strength. She dreamed of a future where she could protect those she cared about and create a new life. As the days passed, Lyra grew closer to the people in the settlement. She helped with daily tasks and shared her own knowledge about the stars and her home planet. People started to respect her, not because she was different, but because she was strong and kind. One afternoon, Aaron gave Lyra a new challenge. He asked her to lead a small group to explore the nearby forest. It was a test of everything she had learned. Lyra felt nervous but ready. She gathered her group and planned carefully. They moved quietly through the trees, watching for any signs of danger. Lyra used the skills she had learned to guide them safely. The group returned without problems, and everyone praised her leadership. This moment was important for Lyra. It showed her that she could trust herself, and others could trust her too. The alien woman who was once ignored was now becoming a leader. Aaron smiled as he watched her. He knew the road ahead would still have challenges, but he believed in Lyra's heart and spirit. The woman who no one wanted was no longer forgotten. She was beginning to shine. Lyra's transformation was becoming clearer with each passing day. The quiet alien woman who once seemed lost and broken was now growing stronger and more confident. Her body was moving with purpose, and her mind was sharper than ever. Aaron could see the change in her, not just through her actions, but in her eyes. They held a new fire, a determination that could not be ignored. Training had become a daily part of her life. Lyra woke early each morning, stretching her limbs, and practicing the moves Aaron had taught her. She was no longer just learning to defend herself. She was learning how to fight with skill and strategy. Aaron had started teaching her how to think like a warrior, how to read her opponent, how to use the environment to her advantage, and how to stay calm under pressure. Lyra's alien body gave her special advantages. Her muscles were strong and flexible in ways that Aaron had never seen in a human. She could jump higher, run faster, and recover quickly from tiredness. With Aaron's guidance, she learned to use these gifts to surprise her opponents and defend herself against danger. But becoming a great warrior was not only about strength and skill, it was about control, discipline, and heart. Aaron reminded Lyra that a true warrior never fought out of anger or fear. Instead, they fought to protect what they loved and to stand for what was right. Lyra listened carefully and began to understand that her journey was not only about her own survival, but about something bigger. The people in the settlement began to notice Lyra's change. Some who had once doubted her now watched with respect. They saw how she trained hard, how she helped others, and how she carried herself with quiet confidence. Slowly, the whispers about her being different or unwanted began to fade. But not everyone was pleased. Some outsiders who heard about Lyra's Growing skills felt threatened. They believed that a former slave woman should not be allowed to become strong or lead others. These people sometimes sent small groups to test the settlement's defenses or to scare the residents. They wanted to see if Lyra was truly as powerful as the stories said. One day, a group of strangers arrived near the settlement. They were rough and dangerous looking. Their faces were hard, and their eyes showed no kindness. They had heard about Lyra and wanted to challenge her. Aaron knew this day might come and prepared the people quietly, trusting Lyra to face whatever came. When the strangers reached the settlement, Lyra stepped forward. She was calm but ready. Her training had prepared her for this moment. The group sneered and mocked her, trying to make her angry. But Lyra kept her calm and said firmly, "I do not fight for anger. I fight to protect my home." The fight began quickly. The strangers attacked with weapons and numbers, but Lyra moved like the wind. She used her speed and strength to block their strikes and counterattack. Her moves were precise, and she did not waste energy on useless blows. Each strike was aimed to end the fight quickly and without unnecessary harm. The people of the settlement watched in awe. Lyra fought not just with her body, but with her mind. She seemed to understand what her opponents would do before they did it. Her alien instincts, combined with Aaron's teachings, made her a force that was hard to beat. In the end, Lyra stood victorious. The strangers were defeated and left with respect for the warrior who had protected her home. But more importantly, the people of the settlement saw what Lyra had become, a protector, a leader, and a symbol of hope. After the battle, Aaron approached Lyra with pride in his eyes. "You have done well," he said. "You are no longer the woman who was unwanted. You are a great warrior." Lyra smiled softly, but knew her journey was not finished. There was still much to learn and many challenges ahead. She wanted to become stronger, not for glory, but to make sure no one would ever feel as helpless as she once did. Aaron and Lyra began to work together even more closely. They trained new fighters in the settlement, teaching others the skills and lessons Lyra had learned. Lyra became a teacher as well as a warrior, passing on hope and strength to those who needed it. One evening, as the sun set and the sky turned orange, Lyra stood on a hill overlooking the settlement. She thought about her past, the fear, the loneliness, the pain. But now, those memories were part of her story, not the whole story. She was no longer defined by what others had done to her. She was defined by who she was becoming. Lyra felt a new sense of peace. She had found a place where she belonged, people who believed in her, and a purpose worth fighting for. The alien woman who no one wanted had become a warrior who many looked up to. Her journey was still unfolding, and she was ready for whatever came next. The peaceful life of the settlement was suddenly broken by a warning. Scouts had spotted a group of raiders moving quickly toward the village. These raiders were known for attacking small communities, stealing what they wanted, and leaving destruction behind. The people of the settlement felt fear and worry. They had never faced a threat this serious before. Aaron called a meeting with the villagers to prepare. He trusted Lyra and knew that she was ready to lead the defense. Everyone looked to her, hoping that she could protect them. Lyra understood the weight of this responsibility. It was her chance to prove that she was not just a fighter, but a protector of her home and people. The raiders arrived at dawn. They were many, armed with sharp weapons and ready for battle. Their faces were full of anger and greed. The settlement's defenders stood quietly but firmly, waiting for the right moment to act. Lyra took a deep breath and gave the order. The battle began. Lyra moved swiftly through the field, leading the defenders with calm and confidence. She had trained for moments like this, but nothing could completely prepare her for the real danger. The raiders were fierce and fought with wild energy. They wanted to overwhelm the defenders quickly, but Lyra stayed focused. She used everything she had learned, the skills Aaron taught her, the lessons from Mira and Jalen, and her own instincts. She moved like a shadow, striking fast and dodging attacks. Her strength surprised many raiders who expected an easy fight. The villagers, inspired by Lyra's courage, fought bravely. They remembered her story, how she was once unwanted and weak but now stood tall and strong. Their fear slowly turned to hope. During the battle, Lyra noticed a group of raiders trying to sneak around to attack the settlement's supply stores. She quickly alerted a small team and led them to stop the raiders. They arrived just in time to block the attack, protecting the supplies that the village depended on. The fight was long and difficult. Many times Lyra was hit or pushed back, but she never gave up. Her heart was strong, and her spirit was determined. She fought not only for herself, but for every person who called the settlement home. As the sun rose higher in the sky, the raiders began to tire. Lyra saw their strength fading and pushed her team to press forward. The raiders started to retreat, realizing they could not win this battle. When the last raider ran away, the village was safe. The people cheered and gathered around Lyra. They lifted her up and thanked her for saving them. For many, it was hard to believe that the woman who once stood forgotten in a slave market had become their greatest protector. Aaron came forward, his eyes shining with pride. "You fought with courage and skill," he said. "You showed what it means to be a true warrior." Lyra smiled, but felt humble. She knew that this victory was only the beginning. There would be more challenges ahead, but she was ready to face them. After the battle, Lyra helped care for the injured and repaired the damaged homes. She worked alongside the villagers, proving that being a warrior was about more than fighting. It was about caring for others and standing together. The story of the battle spread to nearby settlements. People came to see the alien woman who had protected her home with bravery and heart. Lyra's name became known as a symbol of hope and strength. But Lyra also remembered the harsh lessons she had learned from her past. She knew that peace could be fragile and that she needed to be ready for anything. She continued training every day, preparing herself and others for the future. Arin and Lyra planned ways to improve the village's defenses. They built walls and trained more people in fighting skills. The settlement grew stronger, and so did the bond between its people. Lyra also took time to teach younger children, sharing stories of courage and resilience. She wanted them to know that no matter where they came from or what they had been through, they could rise above their struggles. One evening, after a long day of work, Lyra sat quietly by the fire. She looked up at the stars and thought about her journey. From a scared and unwanted slave to a respected warrior and leader, she had come a long way. But she knew her story was far from over. Lyra felt a deep sense of purpose. She wanted to protect, not only her village, but others who could not defend themselves. She dreamed of a future where no one would be cast aside because they were different or weak. Arin joined her by the fire and placed a hand on her shoulder. "You have done something amazing," he said softly. "You have changed your life and the lives of many others." Lyra nodded. "I still have much to learn," she replied, "but I am ready for whatever comes next." Together they looked toward the horizon, knowing that the road ahead would be full of challenges. But with courage, hope, and each other, they believed they could face anything. The alien woman who no one wanted had become a great warrior, and her story was just beginning. After the battle with the raiders, life in the settlement slowly returned to normal. The people were safe, and the damage was repaired. But something had changed forever. Lyra was no longer seen as just an outsider or a stranger. She had earned a place of respect and trust. People came to her for advice and help. She had become a leader in her own right. Lyra spent her days teaching others what she had learned. She worked with young and old, showing them how to defend themselves and how to work together as a team. She believed that everyone, no matter where they came from or what they had been through, had the power to be strong. She wanted to help others find their own strength. Aaron stayed by her side, always supporting and encouraging her. Their bond was deep, built on trust and shared experiences. They had started as two strangers, but now they were partners in every sense. Together, they dreamed of a future where their settlement would grow and thrive, a place where no one would be left behind. Lyra also thought about her past often. She remembered the loneliness and fear she had felt when she was alone and unwanted. But she did not let those memories make her weak. Instead, they reminded her why she fought, to protect others from feeling that same pain. One day, a group of travelers came to the settlement. They had heard stories about Lyra and wanted to learn from her. They came from faraway places where people still judged others because of their differences. Lyra welcomed them warmly and shared her story. She told them how she was once a slave and how, with help and hope, she became a warrior. The travelers listened with respect and admiration. They asked many questions and wanted to train under Lyra's guidance. She saw this as a chance to spread the message of strength, kindness, and courage. She knew that change could start with one person, and she hoped to inspire many. Lyra also began to think about her own people, the ones she had lost. She dreamed of one day returning to her home planet and helping those who were still in danger. She wanted to use her skills and experience to make a difference beyond the settlement, but for now her focus was on the community she had helped build. The settlement was no longer just a place to live. It was a family. People trusted each other and worked together to face any challenges that came their way. One evening, as the stars filled the sky, Lyra stood on a hill overlooking the village. The wind was gentle, and the world felt peaceful. She thought about the long journey she had traveled, from the slave market where no one wanted her, to this place where she was loved and respected. Lyra smiled quietly to herself. She knew that life would always have difficulties, but she was ready. She had found strength in herself and in the people around her. Her story was no longer about being unwanted. It was about hope, courage, and new beginnings. And as she looked up at the stars, Lyra knew that she was ready to face whatever the future held, with a heart full of fire and a spirit that would never be broken.